Velaryon, born in 92 AC, was the eldest and only daughter of Lord Corlys Velaryon and Princess Rhaenys Targaryen. Laena had a great mane of silver gold ringlets that fell down past her waist, pale skin, and purple eyes that denote her Valyrian lineage from both of her parents. Laena was the great-granddaughter of King Jaehaerys I Targaryen and Good Queen Alysanne. Her grandfather was Prince Aemon Targaryen, the eldest living son and heir of King Jaehaerys. When Rhaenys announced she was pregnant with her daughter, sadly, Aemon died shortly after Rhaenys learned she was pregnant, fighting Myrish pirates on Tarth, taking a crossbow bolt through the throats. The death of Aemon created the first of many succession crises that would define the later years of the reign of Jaehaerys, and would ultimately lead to the Dance of the Dragons. Although Rhaenys was Aemon's only living child, Jaehaerys named his second son, Prince Baelon, as his new heir, passing over Rhaenys and her potential unborn son. The unborn Laena, also referred to as the boy in the belly, was subject to much debate on the succession until her birth. However, being a girl put an end to any debate, and when her elder brother was born a few years later, Baelon had been well established as Prince of Dragonstone, and thus both claims fell to the wayside for now. With Laena now having a true-born brother, any chance of her becoming queen in her own right fell to almost zero. When Prince Baelon sadly died of a burst appendix in 101 AC, it threw open the succession issue yet again, and this time there was no end to the claimants. The situation was so complex, King Jaehaerys, at the advice of his last living son, Archmaester Vhagar, called a great council to decide the succession and to set a precedence for any succession issues in the future. Near every lord in the realm assembled at Harrenhal. It took months for everybody to gather, as the lords did not travel alone. Each came with dozens of men-at-arms and camp followers. For a time, the area around Harrenhal became one of the biggest cities in all of Westeros. The council would look at dozens of claims over many days. Very early on, the claims of Princess Rhaenys and Laena herself were dismissed, given their gender. Ultimately, the choice came down to Prince Viserys, the eldest son of Baelon Targaryen, and Laenor Velaryon, the grandson of Aemon Targaryen, and brother to Laena. The council voted a reported 20-1 in favour of Viserys, with the old king naming him Prince of Dragonstone. The Great Council was meant to serve as a precedent for the future, should succession become an issue again, with the Great Council's vote meaning the throne could not pass to a woman or through a woman to her son. While 101 was meant to be a precedent, that does not mean anyone would actually abide by it, and a precedent is not law, just guidance to look back on. By 105 AC, Laena had become a dragon rider, by claiming the largest and left alive after the passing of Balerion the Black Dread, Vhagar, the famous mount of Queen Visenya. It is not known how Laena ended up bonding with Vhagar. However, given the dragon's history with her riders, they do often share some similar personality traits. After the ascension of King Viserys in 103, the subsequent death of Queen Aemma Arryn in late 105 AC, Grand Maester Rossiter fiercely urged King Viserys to remarry and suggested the 12-year-old Laena as a bride. The intent was so Viserys could heal the bitter rift between House Targaryen and House Velaryon and bring them back into the fold, including their huge fleets. But Viserys rejected this proposal on account of her age, and to the surprise of everyone at court, apart from the hand of the king, Otto Hightower, Viserys would marry the Hand's 17-year-old daughter, Alicent, and although this angered Laena's father, Laena herself was untroubled and unfazed by the development. It was said that Laena was interested more in flying Vhagar than boys and dances. She did have the blood of a dragon rider after all. At the age of 12, Laena was betrothed to a son of the Sea Lord of Braavos, a very good match, and one that would raise the standing of the sea snakes tenfold across the narrow sea, as well as making House Velaryon richer than they already were. By the time the king did marry Alicent Hightower in 106 AC, it was very publicly seen that Laena and all of her kin were missing from the wedding, causing speculation that the rift between the two houses had only deepened. When the Sea Lord of Braavos died, Laena's Braavosi betrothed squandered his father's vast money very quickly, and with it any power he held. With nothing left, he scurried to Driftmark to take his place and marry Laena. But to the man's disappointment, Lord Corlys and Laena herself would spend nearly 10 years repeatedly postponing the wedding. They had found themselves in a tough position where they were unwilling to go through with the wedding, but also unable to gracefully break the betrothal. When Prince Daemon Targaryen, the king's troublesome younger brother, arrived on Driftmark in 115 AC, the singers claimed he fell in love with Laena at first sight, though others believe He saw her as a means to further his ambitions and to check his falling position with his niece Rhaenyra Targaryen firmly in place as heir, and married to Laena's younger brother, Laenor, in 114, with a child quickly on the way after. It is said that Daemon insulted Laena's betrothed so savagely the boy challenged him to a duel to defend his honour. In truth, this duel was madness. Every witness agreed, and had the betrothed known who Daemon was, he would surely have backed down. The duel itself was over in an instant, as the betrothed was killed by Daemon with Dark Sister, with Laena wedding Daemon a fortnight later, marrying without the consent of King Viserys. And aware that the king and court would not be pleased with their marriage, Laena and Daemon flew on their dragons Caraxes and Vhagar to Pentos across the Narrow Sea, where they were hosted by the prince of the city for some time. From Pentos, Daemon and Laena travelled to Volantis, up the Rhine to Cahors and Norvos. Every stop they made, men and women, rich and poor, stopped to marvel at the dragons. There was some rumour that they travelled to the ruins of Old Valyria, but there is no proof. Only rumour from unreliable sources. They eventually returned to Pentos, where Laena discovered she was pregnant. Laena and Daemon remained in Pentos for the remainder of her pregnancy, feeling it unwise for Laena to travel so far while with child. In 116 AC, still in Pentos, Laena gave birth to twin daughters, Rhaena and Baella. When the girls were 6 months old, Laena sailed with them to Driftmark to be with her family, while Daemon flew their dragons home. Almost as soon as they had returned to Driftmark, he wrote to his brother, begging leave to present his daughter to the court and receive a royal blessing. The small council adamantly advised the king to refuse, given Daemon's past deeds, but Viserys told Grand Maester Mellos, Daemon is a father now, and he would have changed. Over the next few years, Laena would become close friends with her sister-in-law, Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen. Driftmark and Dragonstone only being a very short dragon ride apart, Laena and Daemon would often visit Rhaenyra on Dragonstone, with Rhaenyra often making the trip to Driftmark as well. In 117 AC, Baella and Rhaena were presented to the court by their father, helping to mend the damaged relationship between the king and his rogue brother once again. This would lead to the twins being betrothed to Rhaenyra's eldest two sons, Jacaerys and Lucerys. The match this time received the blessing of King Viserys, with the king and small council seeing this as another way to further mend the damaged relationship between House Targaryen and Velaryon. In 119 AC, Laena became pregnant again. During the pregnancy, Rhaenyra would permanently relocate to Driftmark to support Laena and be by her side throughout. During the first few days of 120 AC, Laena went into labour. However, from the onset there was a dark shadow over Driftmark. Following a long and hard day and night of labour, she gave birth to a twisted and malformed son who died within an hour of birth. The difficult labour had taken all of Laena's strength. She was weakened further from grief over the loss of her child. Childbirth fever set in soon after, despite the maester's best efforts. It is suspected that the length of the labour could have been the cause. Driftmark's maesters could not heal her, nor Maester Geraldus, who Rhaenyra had summoned from Dragonstone when things looked dire. After 3 days of sickness, Laena died. However, Laena Velaryon did not want to die in bed. She sought a dragon rider's death. She wanted to take to the skies on Vhagar one last time before she died. Sneaking out of her bedchambers, Laena collapsed on the tower steps and died. She was found by Daemon and carried back to bed, where he sat vigil over Laena's body, together with Rhaenyra.